Hello, and welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host, Neil Magnuson. This is a show where we talk about truth, hope, and change. Very important things in our world, and we've been on the same track looking for truth about the same things, trying to maintain some hope about the same things so that we can get the proper change that we need for quite a while now. This show has been primarily focused on the pursuit of low barrier access community cannabis stores, and it's been quite the story so far for sure. For those who've been watching along the way, you will know that we were in court today. That after being raided by the police back in May, and ending up before the courts, we finally had what was called a pre-conference trial. But the bad news is that we didn't get to witness the pre-conference trial. My lawyer said that I didn't need to be there. I said, well, I certainly want to be there, and he didn't tell me I couldn't be there. But when quite a group of us today met at the courthouse and had a sacred session beforehand and then went into the courthouse, we were told that we're not on the list. And then we were told that the pre-conference trial is simply a video, digital, virtual meeting, that nobody's there in the courthouse. We're not allowed to witness it. Defendants are not given links. It's simply between Crown Counsel and our lawyer. So I don't think that that's due process. I don't think that that's right, that I don't get to hear what's said about me by either side. I don't know how well my lawyer is representing me. I don't know how the Crown is painting me. And so we were very frustrated by that. We don't think that justice is properly served when the person whose fate is in the hands of the justice system is not able to witness the mechanisms that may or may not, to take away his liberty. The Crown is still looking for 6 months for me, and they're willing to let Andrew and George go if I plead guilty to that. But, I think that Andrew and George are secure. I think we're all secure here, and I'm not about to plead guilty to anything. I'm not about to take any penalty of any sort willingly or be shamed in any way for what we've done here. This is a prosecution, a Crown Counsel that doesn't get it. Of course, as we mentioned on a previous show, it appears through their disclosure that I'm described in the police database as being anti-police. So I mentioned how unfair that is, that that's not the truth. I'm against these bad laws, and I sure don't like the way that they're enforced sometimes. But actually my campaigns have been in favor of police having a better place in our society, of being people that we trust and respect as to people that we fear and think are corrupt. And so that's been my mission for a long time, but it's not anti-police, but yet that's how they have described me. That's how I've been profiled by the police. So here we have Crown prosecutors who are also privy to that information. I mean, it's part of their disclosure. They're the ones who put it in there, that I'm somehow anti-police. And so what they did today, I did have a brief conversation with my lawyer after this rather brief pre-conference trial that he had virtually today. And I was told that the Crown sees me as being opportunistic, that I'm just trying to take advantage of this healthcare emergency so that I can, I guess, line my own pockets or something. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm doing this for almost 6 years. I mean, that's what they should have been investigating. Am I getting rich or not? Because, if they did a proper investigation, they'd find out I'm not getting rich here, that there's still monies owed to different suppliers, and that I run a fairly tight balance, keeping the prices down as best I can, while making sure that all the bills get paid and that everybody gets remunerated properly for the efforts that they put in. But this is not me being opportunistic with respect to, taking advantage of a public health emergency to try to get rich. Now, if they want to say that I'm being opportunistic with respect to taking advantage of this situation so that cannabis can be legalized low barrier for all sick people and all poor people, including those people addicted to drugs, well, there may be some accuracy to that. But I've been on this campaign for a very long time. I think I'm a good human being. I've tried to be a good human being for most of my life. Once I sort of became aware of other people's feelings and what they deserve in the way of respect, even though I got off to a bad start, hanging with bad people, doing some things that I'm not proud of to this day. But that was all before I was even out of my teens. And by the time I got out of my teens, I had figured most of that stuff out and had decided that I just wanted to be a good human from that point on. And that's what I think I've been here. And one of the things that came across my path as just a regular human being living my life, in mainstream Canada, was that cannabis prohibition was a huge, huge blight on our otherwise not too bad society, and that there was no proper justification for prohibiting this, that I had been using it since I was 15, and that none of the things they said about it were true with respect to its downsides and the fact that you smoke one joint, you're going to be a heroin addict, and all the rest that went with it, and you're going to be lazy and you're not going to be able to focus properly, and if you smoke for a long time, your brain will be mush. I mean, that's what I was told, and that turned out to be absolutely not true. And then, upon doing a proper look into it, I really felt it was the right thing to do for me as a responsible Canadian citizen, was to try to do something about the attempt to prohibit cannabis from Canadians. And so I've done that not because I'm anti-police. I've done that not because I don't like governments or anything like that. It's all because it's the right thing to do. Like the attempt to prohibit cannabis in Canada is one of the biggest things going on back in those days, 20 some years ago, when I decided to try to do something about this. I mean, they were arresting so many people. The police in Canada were interdicting with minor cannabis offenses more than any other offense going on. The amounts of money that were being expended by our governments, by the court system, by the police, and all the rest of it was just obscene. There was really nothing bigger going on that I could get passionate about. And I became quite passionate about that. And when I really looked into it and found out how the lies were told and why they were told and what that's resulted in the ruination of lives and so much expense. And I look back on my own life and I see how it affected my life. I mean, I really, that night when I had that epiphany about just how bad this prohibition of cannabis was, and I had to do something about it. And I cried and I quit my job, and I've been doing this ever since. I'm not a criminal. I'm not somebody that's looking for an easy way to make money off of the backs of people who, are suffering. That's absolutely 100% not who I am, not who I would want anything to do with. I'm not that person. And so here we've got a federal crown that's decided that that's how they're going to paint me, and that that's why they need to take me down and put me in a cell and stop us from doing what we're doing here. Well, this is a federal crown that never looked past that particular blurb on their paper. They never really looked into it at all, because if they had really looked into it, they could ask anybody. Everyone will tell you. Anybody that knows me, anybody that's had any experience with me would tell them that I'm a genuine human being and I give a shit and I just want to help people, because that's what makes me feel good about myself. And that's what I want to do in this world, because you only got one shot at life and it goes by really, really quick. Like, holy smokes, I'm already closing in on like the last half of my 60s here. Like, what the hell? So you don't have much time on this planet. When you unravel the things that happened in childhood and you finally get right with things and you're grounded and you want to just be the human that you can be and somebody that you can be proud of and your kids can be proud of, well then that's what you do, and that's what I did, and that's who I am. But they obviously never looked into that. I've never cashed in over 20 years of working in the cannabis industry. I've never raised a bunch of money that I've used for myself for other things. I've never touched any of that money that I've helped raise for both the Allard case and other constitutional challenges that I've had a hand in fundraising. But I'm not here about the money. I'm not here to try to cash in on anybody. I'm really quite upset that they would categorize me as being someone who's just tried to cash in. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 6 years. You'd think that they'd be able to know by now whether or not I was cashing in. So a number of other things were brought up. The prosecution said that because I had to apply for a license, that means that I knew that I needed a license and wasn't allowed to do what I was doing without it. Really? The judge didn't agree, by the way, but I certainly don't agree with that either. There were no licenses to apply for when we started this program. Cannabis wasn't legal. I couldn't go to Health Canada and ask for some exemption from a Cannabis Act that hadn't even been put together yet. So, yes, I knew that we needed a license a few years into doing the program. Yes, I knew that it wasn't something that was strictly according to law, but that law is unconstitutional, and we're going to prove that in court. And it's already been proved in court. with the Howell case in Alberta, with the Martin and Warnocky and Siemens case in Saskatchewan. The courts are ruling on this. The Canadians have a constitutional right to storefront access. They have a constitutional right to not having arbitrary limits put on the potency of the cannabis that they want to use for themselves. So already the courts are deciding that these things were not constitutional in the first place. So to say that I knew that what I was doing was wrong, and that the evidence that I knew that was because I had to apply for a license 3.5 years after starting the program, well, that's just ridiculous. I knew it was against laws, but I knew that those laws were unconstitutional. They have to be. And in fact, there's other laws that counter those laws. I'm trying to save people's lives here. Go ahead, test my motives. See what I've done here. You'll know that that's exactly what I've been trying to do, and that I sacrifice whatever needs to be sacrificed to make that happen and to keep this going. So I'm not opportunistic. I'm just trying to help. I didn't know that I needed a license before there was any license to apply for. And as soon as we were told we needed a license, we applied for it. No, we're not the ones that have done anything wrong here. This is the federal government. This is Patty Haydu, the previous health minister. This is Benoit Séguen, the president or whatever he is, the head of the Division of Special Exemptions and Licenses for Health Canada. These people did not do their jobs. In the face of a public emergency, they didn't do their jobs. It's one thing to not do your job on just an everyday scale of things, where you let something slide for a little while and Mrs. Jones doesn't get what she needs for longer than was reasonable, and you should have done better. And that happens in ministries all the time. People fall through the cracks and they don't get the proper service, but it's one at a time. It's not like this. This is a public health emergency. This is where we have tens of thousands of people at risk of death and dying in large numbers every day. And we need to do something about it. And we came up with a solution that works very, very well for many, many people. And we were demonstrating it every day. By the time we put our application into Patty Haydu and to Benoit Séguen, we've been doing it for 3.5 years. 3.5 years. A great track record. Hundreds of people. Some of them made video testimonies for us. Others wrote letters for us. Hundreds of people that would tell you that we helped them, we saved them, cannabis saved their life, and access to high-dose edibles saved their life. Where is the government's investigation of any of this? There is none. They're the ones that are delinquent here. They're the ones who are liable here. And what is their motives, I wonder? They think that I'm opportunistic and that I'm trying to get away with something here. Well, what are they doing? What's their motive? What are they worried about? Because if I'm just in this to make some money and people get helped in the long run, that it's real that there's hundreds of people that we've helped escape from addiction, and there's hundreds more that are on their way out because of us. If that's real, then what does it matter if I was to make a whole bunch of money? In fact, I probably should make a whole bunch of money doing that. They should just shower money all over me for doing that. So what's their motive? What are they all about? What do they care about? The only thing they care about is that you follow the cartel's rules of how to sell cannabis and what price to sell it at. And that set of rules eliminates the poor people, the sick people, and those people struggling with addiction. And that's not okay. And that's against our constitutional rights. And if it isn't, it damn well should be. And as an ethical human being trying to save people's lives, I think that I have some protection by that part of the law that talks about not interfering with people that are trying to save a life. I got a letter from Mr. Zachary Walsh, the foremost expert in cannabinoid replacement therapeutics, who states very, very clearly and emphatically in his letter supporting us that what we're doing is saving lives, that we need to have no obstacles placed before us, that we need to be supported and encouraged by government and allowed to expand. And yet, what have we gotten in the last 2.5 years since I applied for a license? A whole lot of heartache, stress and troubles. 419, thank goodness for that. When you got stress and troubles, you really need to have a cannabinoid break. That's why we do it. If things get too serious, you got to find an excuse to make sure you're imbibing in the sacred herb and getting those those magical vapors deep into your system where they can work their magic and they can provide you with peace and calm and a way of looking at things that makes it okay, that provides for some hope. And so that's what we're doing. Time for a puff. And of course, as always at 420, I don't even think he needs an introduction. Or you should just probably just scoot right in here. Well, you're into your 4th year. I don't know how long it takes before you have some sort of squatter's rights.
I don't know. I'm wearing my Santa Claus hat today.
Yeah, nice.
Yes, because we're getting close to that.
Yeah.
And
well, I wasn't really into
Christmas. We noticed that you don't have any Christmas cards, so I actually brought you a Christmas card today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can open that right now.
I will.
Yeah,
okay, right now. No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, you glued it shut.
I like that.
This is a skill testing.
That stuff tastes good nowadays.
There.
They make the good stuff now, right? It
you like the glue?
Yeah, the glue tastes really good. Yeah. I'm a glue head.
Is that what happened?
Well, now I know what to get you for Christmas anyway.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, a bottle of glue.
A box of envelopes so I can lick them.
I'll just go straight to the source and we'll get you a bottle of glue. Merry Christmas.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, jeez.
Yes, I have a lingering cold.
Yeah, I'm not
you
sure
should
with
get
you.
a code.
Yeah.
Have a code. You should move
I'm
away
going to
from
move
me.
this over a little bit more. I guess it'll give me some
Because
more
I'm
room.
going to open this and get excited now. I can tell because it's not empty.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that nice of you, Glenn? Look at that. Holy smokes, you doubled it from last year.
Yep, doubled it. Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, my friend.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Christmas is such a wonderful time of year, eh?
It is.
It doesn't matter how depressed
can
you
put
are,
that
all of a
card
sudden
up there.
somebody comes along.
Right? On your desk
You
or
want to
up
put it up
above there. Right on. And then we can open up the wheat fairy
Yeah,
thing.
I'm
Yes.
still going to talk about Christmas here.
Okay. You're going to talk about Christmas.
Uh-oh, it's not going to say.
It's
I'm not going to say because I left the card in there.
Oh, is that what you
Oh,
did?
yeah.
All right, that's good enough. There you go.
Okay.
Looks good. Looks good, yeah.
So what do we got here then? Number one.
Ooh, that's from the wheat fairy she brought last week, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. And what do we got over here? Ooh, no.
Oh, and one from the candy bar.
Mary Joanna.
And then you got one more somewhere, but we don't know where it is. Yes, where's Miss Medibles?
Miss Nedibles, we raffled them off.
Oh, you didn't get one
I
for
didn't keep
yourself?
one.
Oh,
No,
I got the... Oh, okay.
I raffled it off.
All right.
I think Fiona got the second prize, which was the one that was going to me, but I wanted that to put out there for the CSP.
Nice.
So this is from Miss D and the candy
Candy bar? Yeah. And she also gave a nice donation.
So, yes, she did.
Yes. Thank you.
So, I opened up the first 13 today. I hadn't opened any of them yet.
Yeah.
I should turn it this way, shouldn't I? Yes, I'm looking at it. All you got is some weird Santa Claus in the back there. But then he's on the front too. So I opened up the first 13. There was a half a dozen edibles. What do you got going on here?
Edibles right on
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
There you go. You got some edibles
You
there.
want me to show them stuff? All right. I'll show them stuff. There's some
Some of the
candy
stuff that you found in
sours,
there, yeah.
50 milligrams. There's some chocolate there.
Whoa.
So that was in like a half a dozen of the first 13. There was like 7 different strains of weed. I don't have those bags with me right now,
No.
so I can't tell you what they were, but there were some interesting ones in there, some strains I'd never heard of before. And the weed all looked pretty good. So I rolled it all up into these joints here. And that's what we smoked at the courthouse
At the
today.
courthouse this afternoon.
And
Nice.
here we are in such a weird world where they think it's okay to spend, upwards of $100,000+ on this Operation Blaze and the whole prosecution of the gang of CSPers.
Yeah.
That you get to walk into court with
And
your
show them your weed.
With your weed.
Yeah.
You don't have to show them. You just put it in the tray there, and then they hand you the tray at the end of the little frisky thing there, and then you take your weed back and you put it in your pocket, and away you go.
And you get to laugh with the guy to the guard named Jay.
Sure.
and
we all know Jay smokes weed.
Well, like Jay, yeah.
These sheriffs in the VTV, they're allowed to smoke weed now. And
They're allowed to smoke weed, yeah.
you can see that Jay probably does.
Well, we never know.
He's such a happy guy. He's not alcohol based.
No, yeah.
He's not hungover. Not hungover.
But yeah, he's always nice guy. And what did you get at number 1 today then?
I haven't opened it yet.
Yeah, I know what I got. Let's see if you got the same thing.
See if they're consistent. You see, we get to do a test here for those of us who have more than one.
Oh yeah, I had the red wrapping paper.
This is from the Weed Fairy.
Yes, it
And
is.
her calendar just started like today.
Yes, because
it's the 12 days of Christmas.
Uh,
This one starts on the 1st because that's better.
Yeah, well, we're doing the back 12, right? So it ends on the 25th.
All right, so what do we got here? We got
Oh,
MK Ultra.
oh, I got donkey butter.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not all the same.
They're not
all
the
of
same.
these,
Yeah.
what do they call them? Advent calendars,
Advent calendars.
are created equal.
Yeah,
Although they may be in the end.
it could be.
You know, probably you have the same ones, just in a different order.
Could be, yeah.
So
It
there's
depends
that.
on who was putting them in there, and you know, if you had a bunch of different people, then yeah, obviously.
And you
it'd
brought me
change.
something.
Yeah, I brought you some super pink. It's a 70% indica, 20 to 24% THC.
Is there anything else I need to know about this? where
No,
it came
there's
from?
no shatter in there. There's
No,
no.
you didn't. It's not from any particular person we were talking about.
Nope, nope. This is just a local grower from Mission.
See ya.
See you, John.
John Murray leaving the house. Good to see you, John.
Love you, John.
Should've
See you
brought
next
it
week. Tubes and dubs.
Next show we'll have you on, John.
Yep.
Sure.
Make sure you're wearing your hat.
Next Tuesday.
Yep. See you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Dibs and dibs.
Dibs.
Yeah, thanks to the candy bar for the altered nice donation. Thank you to Cindy and the what is it? The Mushroom Cafe, is it?
And Gary Ross.
And Gary Ross and
Yeah.
Rosie and
We're getting close
and Dana
on what
Larson,
the
I guess,
amount
Dana
was.
Larson, yeah, we are $705 away.
And I just paid $100 to have.
Oh, so now we're $805.
What were those things that I just
We're getting
ordered?
pogos.
Pogos.
Yes, hot
These are-
dogs
these
on
are
a
like
stick.
hot dogs on
basically.
a stick.
Yes, yeah. And that's what we're going to give away next Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right.
Tubes and dubs and.
We have
and hot dogs on a
320
stick.
pairs of socks to give away.
Nice.
Yes. Yes.
It might take us a few weeks to do that.
It might, but at least we'll always have some warm socks.
It's
for
a beautiful
someone.
thing that for
Yeah.
all the winter time we have socks for people. We had a few left over last year that we were giving out early in this
This
winter
year?
time.
Okay, good. Yeah,
We'll
they've
be
already
giving
killed.
most of
Let
those
me know
out
that
now.
this stuff is now here in Alice. We're just waiting for us to pick it up. So
Nice.
I'll probably do that on the weekend or something.
It's getting close, man.
Yeah.
How does
What's
it-
Tuesday?
Wow.
Tuesday is tubes and dubs.
Yeah, 12 days till Christmas.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm sick.
Well, you won't. Hopefully you won't be then.
I
Hopefully you
don't,
won't
so, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I like to talk about my health journey here.
be. Yeah.
So trying to be healthy, I really am. I'm drinking smoothies and Boost and not eating sugar and stuff as best I can, and having some issues about low blood sugar now and stuff. But, in any case, so Lloyd Hart, a friend of ours, he was one of the performers that did so well on BC Bud Day.
Yeah.
He told me that what I needed, what everybody needs, is large amounts of vitamin C.
No.
So he said, you got to go buy this calcium ascorbate vitamin C. The regular vitamin C, your body can only use a small percentage of it, but with the calcium ascorbate vitamin C, you get it all. So if you buy it in powder form
Yeah.
and eat large amounts of it like twice a day, then it'll kick the shit out of anything that's not right. So I do that. I
Yeah.
go and buy one of these things, and I faithfully twice a day I take fairly large amounts of this stuff. I get a cold.
Yeah.
After a week, I got a cold. I'm
You
like, I
probably
haven't had a
took too
cold in
much.
years. Why would I have? Well, I asked him about that, and he said that's what's to be expected. You're cleaning out things and flushing things, and there's a collagen that's created that's going to come up and cause these things. And
No way.
yeah, that's what he said. I don't know. He's not a doctor. I'm not taking his advice. I'm just telling you what he said.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do know that I ate a whole bunch of vitamin C that's supposed to be in an even better form than I've been eating all my life. Whenever I felt a cold coming on, I would just have 5 or 6 of the regular
Vitamin
pills
C,
of
yeah.
vitamin C.
Yeah.
And typically my sore throat would go away and I'd
Do
be
what
fine.
you do then.
Well, I've still been doing that.
Yeah.
I'm still doing that. But now I got a nasty cold. I got a head cold. My head doesn't feel right at all. And I was
There is that
coughing like crazy.
there is that RSV going around for children and older people.
Oh, maybe
So-
I'm one of the children.
So if you have any breathing problems, you need to definitely go in. But they're saying it's an
Yeah.
8 to 10 hour wait right now.
Is it a breathing problem when you have to cough incessantly throughout the night and can't sleep?
Probably. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 nights ago kept me up almost all night. I every couple minutes I'd have to do just 2 coughs.
They say to
Something there.
not to go to Emerge, but call 811 first. Let them know what's happening.
811 now?
811, yes. You dial 811 and then they'll tell you if you should go to the hospital or not. Right? So.
I don't think I'm seriously ill enough to be.
I don't think
going
so.
to
You're doing the
hospital.
show and you're able to breathe, so it's only happening at nighttime,
I'm
right?
gonna be no.
No, I mean like the coughing, Nixon.
No.
No? Okay.
I just coughed on the show just a few minutes ago. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not every couple minutes right now. I've
Yes,
been
that's
drinking
what I'm trying to-
lozenges.
Yeah.
I got some other stuff here. I guess it's over there. Some bee pollen stuff that you take that's for your throat. I've been, I'm
Sounds like you're
trying.
listening to people.
I'm trying, you know.
Just do whatever worked for you before, and it should be all right.
I haven't had a cold for years.
I know, but
I wish there was something that could just knock it out. Well, what I want to do is go have a hot bath and then get some Vicks Vapor Rub and put it on my chest and go lay in bed.
Raw onion is supposed to be good for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You eat it?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Eat raw onion. Yep. Apparently that's good for colds too.
Okay.
Right there, but everybody's got something. Something they'll probably tell you. Chicken soup. Remember, there's chicken soup too. Right? You just never
So
know, right?
the 420 moment came before I really got to properly
Yeah.
finish
Well,
describing
and
this.
then you're not living in a mansion or driving around in a limousine, right? So you're not doing
I own
being
property in
very
Saskatchewan.
opportunistic, you know.
What do you mean you got a Saskatchewan limo out there right now?
Yeah.
I got property in Saskatchewan. You couldn't build a garage here in Vancouver for what that piece of property is worth, and it hasn't gone up in value at all since I rescued somebody in purchasing it. And I only did that because there was some money that my family had that I could use if I bought real estate. Well, it wasn't anything enough to buy any real estate, and I didn't want to have a mortgage when I can't really see an income happening, so I did do that. But it's cost me money to have that out there, money that I only got through family stuff and what have you. And I don't want to talk about it. I mean, we all make money here because that's the idea. Everybody needs to get paid for what they're doing, or it doesn't happen. And I need to make this sustainable. I need to keep people coming here, being on time, doing their job.
Yeah.
It needs to work properly. So sure, everybody's getting paid. I'm paying my bills, but to say that they don't want to allow what we're doing here because somehow I'm this opportunistic person that's just trying to get rich is just ridiculous. So the other thing that the Crown went on to say is that they really think that they could toss the charges against George and Andrew.
Yeah.
But that's conditional on me agreeing to plead guilty.
Yes.
And I said, I'm sorry about that, but I'm not going to agree that I'm guilty of anything criminal at all.
Yeah.
And I have faith that George and Andrew will do just fine.
Same thing.
But if that's the way it has to be, then they can come along for the ride as well. But I don't think they're going to succeed in court against us. I think that we're doing good work here, and I'm proud of what we're doing here. And I know everybody here is very proud of what they do here. And so the government has never properly investigated that. They've never come down to see us, to talk to us, to get a sense of what we're doing here. I'm an open book. I will answer all of their questions. I will show them anything they want to see. I'm not hiding anything. I've never tried to hide anything. I've never tried to be that type of person. I'm not a criminal. So,
And didn't he say something about an absolute discharge?
Yeah, that's what he thinks that he can get from me. And so that's what we're going for at this point. I'll see how that shapes up to see whether or not I completely agree to it or not. Because the choice is that I can either go to trial or we can put in a resolution document that would lay out agreed upon facts that both sides agree to, and then let the judge decide based on that, rather than have a trial and bring a bunch of cops up there and get them to talk about coming to the window and buying some weed and and those sorts of things. I mean, we sell weed here. That's what we do. I'm more than willing to admit
We give
that.
away weed too.
Well, sure. We're low barrier.
Yeah.
And we have weed for sale as well as free. We have low cost and no cost cannabis.
Yes.
And we do that on purpose because we need to pay bills. We've got rent to pay in the space that's on our application. I need to pay the stipend to my volunteers. There's all kinds of costs involved. So that's why we do that. And what happened is that once we entered into this business model from just being on the streets and just dealing with donations, and by the way, the CSP also did raise money at 420 and Cannabis Day and the Robson Square protests. We set up tents there. We had low-cost cannabis available to people there. We used that money for the CSP.
Yeah.
This has been an ongoing strategy of the CSP is to provide low cost, but those were just rare events, one-offs every once in a while. When we opened the store, and we were open 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, and we're selling cannabis at low cost, we're meeting a whole demographic of people that we really didn't understand before that. That there's a huge amount of people out in Canada there that are certainly not going to join a program. They're not going to identify themselves as drug addicts and drug users and take advantage of the CSP. They are secret addicts. They're secret for a variety of different reasons, but there's a whole lot of them. And there's a whole lot of people that are afraid of the medical system, and they won't be a part of it. They won't allow the medical system to have access to them. There's a whole bunch of other people who would like access to the medical system and they can't find a doctor. There's a whole bunch of those as well. But we found that there was this demographic of the population that are secret addicts for those variety of reasons, and that they need to have access that's discreet. They can't be scrutinized. They can't be asked to justify anything to be able to get access. They just need access.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want access to the free program, then you have to justify that. You're going to have to come and, well, actually, we've never done that either, so I guess I'm wrong about that. But that would make some sense if we scrutinized people that were part of the free program to see if they were low income or not. That would probably make some sense. But we didn't do that. We didn't do it because we had 300 people that had been lining up, for years out in front of Vandu for hours at a time that now we're going to make members out of because we got a storefront. Well, those people, I don't care if they're millionaires. They're willing to stand out there on the sidewalk through all those different, weather conditions just to get a small bag of edibles. I didn't scrutinize anybody for income. I didn't ask anybody if they got money tucked away somewhere.
But it's like you said to your lawyer, they don't scrutinize when you walk into the liquor store.
That's right.
They don't ask you when you buy tobacco, let's say if you're of age.
Other than age.
Other than age, right?
Right.
So,
adults don't have to justify themselves for buying anything.
No, and these
they might
are,
make you take a little mini
of
course
age.
if you want to buy pesticides or something like that.
Yeah,
but you can buy all these dangerous white sugar products. You can buy alcohol up the yin yang. As this time of year, you can see how many people are buying alcohol.
In cases.
And there's no scrutiny on those people. There's like, well, are you using it because you got a good medical condition there?
But I did see something interesting in the alcohol buzz. Gene from Kiss.
Gene Simmons.
Yeah, he's got a new vodka called Money Bags, and he was just in Alberta giving it away. And the glass is in the shape of a money bag, right? It's got the S on it.
People are going to want them bottles.
I want them bottles! I was thinking, put
a lot of
change in there,
celebrities
right?
have made pretty good selling vodka.
People are going to be like, nah, man, I'm going to get that bottle and turn it into a bomb.
Well, and on that note, I think maybe we should probably bring Sterling
Yeah,
in.
I guess we've heard it. We've heard from
Sterling's not here, man.
So, in case you haven't noticed, Sterling's here.
Yep.
I didn't actually mention it off the top.
We didn't know
8 out of 10 Glenn. We got Sterling, the professor from Saskatoon, with us. We're going to do an update, of course, on the CSP Healing Wave RV number 2. Talk a little bit about the courts, which we've already done most of. And I want to mention the out-of-town CSPs and get that right off the hop here, that we got people doing the CSP in other places. And we're pretty thrilled about all of that, and they need support. And thank you to all these people that are keeping the whole spirit of this thing alive. And eventually we're going to win this out where the government's going to have to allow what we're doing here, because Chris Backer in Halifax is not a greedy individual. In fact, hey government, hey Crown Prosecutor, I did this on my own time without taking any remuneration for anything for 3.5 years before we got the store here. So for them to say that I'm just opportunistic, well, it's a pretty long con, if that's what's going on here. Because like I say, for the first 3.5 years, I spent a few days every week going and trying to drum up donations. And then I would go to Vandu and give them out. And I took no remuneration because there was no remuneration. There was no cash involved, and I don't eat edibles. So, I'm really quite taken aback that they would think that I'm just doing this because I'm opportunistic. Yes, I'm trying to take advantage of a situation where hopefully this is what it takes, or not hopefully this is what it takes, but maybe this is what it takes to get cannabis legalized properly, to have low barrier access. That it's unfortunate that it takes a public health emergency of hundreds of people, tens of thousands of people dying of a poison drug supply to get, what is reasonable access to cannabis. I mean, that's disgusting that's what it takes. Am I opportunistic in trying to take advantage of that? Well, I don't know. This is what I've been doing for 20 years, is trying to get cannabis legalized. When I recognized that cannabis high-dose edibles is what's going to help with this overdose crisis, I went about trying to make that a reality. That's all.
Well, the term opportunistic, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, right? Because, maybe you were opportunistic in the fact that you had an opportunity to help people.
Exactly.
To help save people.
100%.
And so them using that word, I would turn it right around back.
I think they're talking about how I've been involved with pot rallies for a long time, trying to legalize cannabis. That they're saying that this what we're doing here, taking this opportunity to help people, is actually just a backdoor way of trying to get weed legalized. Well, It
that's
wasn't the plan, but you know, I mean, it's just what should happen.
A lot of legal lies out there, anyways.
Yes, 100%.
Right? Opportunistic.
I'm a cop, and I'm anti-cop. They said. You know what that does to a person when you put anti-cop on their fucking resume that the cops pull up when they're pulling you over? That puts your life at risk. What happens when you're trying to talk to somebody about the injustice of the laws, and they look up your name and see that you're anti-police, and right away they don't care what you say. They don't listen to what you have to say. You're anti-police. They're not going to care about anything.
Yeah, you basically wearing a flag or a target on your back.
They just think that you're there trying to talk about weed being legal because you hate police. Not it at all. So I'm not happy about any of this. This is not good.
I know you don't hate police. There are lots of police officers out there that actually
deserve hating. You were going to say the opposite.
Yeah, I was going to say the opposite. But, I mean, it goes both ways.
It does go both ways.
It goes both ways.
Some police have really done a bad service to their fellow police officers and the uniform that they wear. And others are trying hard to be good, despite a lot of peer pressure and bad laws that they're instructed to enforce.
Yep. Yeah.
And I've always just tried to help them, too. I don't walk... I spent 4 trips going across Canada for 5.5 months each trip, walking into every police station I could find. You don't do that if you're anti-police. You know, I didn't go in there to berate them, call them names, and tell them why they're scumbags. I went in there to talk reason to them, to say, hey, you guys are human beings here. Look what these laws are doing, man. You know what's going on in your neighborhoods. You can see these kids getting into gangs now because of the prohibition of drugs and all the bad drug policy consequences that are happening. I could talk to them as reasonable human beings because I didn't hate them. No, I'm not anti-cop. You know, we're two human beings. I always gave them the benefit of the doubt that they're a person who grew up playing with their little toys and deciding that they wanted to be the guy that protects the innocent person from the bully, and that manifested itself in being a police officer down the road. I always give them the benefit of the doubt. That's who you are. You want to protect innocent people from bullies. You know, I respect that, right? And these laws that you end up having to enforce, well, you didn't make those laws. You're not happy you have to enforce them. You know,
well, if all the people with the right ideas, like especially people like police officers, they're right in the thick of it. They know the laws that are unjust, and they see the problems.
They do.
Why? If we all fought together and all pointed out the indifferences and the injustices, then maybe something would change. But they're not prepared to stand up because you know what?
They can't stand up themselves.
They can't.
They can't.
They also
it just doesn't make any economic sense for them because they're going to be blacklisted in their job. They're not going to get promotions they would otherwise get. They're probably going to be worked out of the force. They just can't stand up against these things. That's the way it's been for a long time.
Yeah. It's a constant fight no matter where you go because those people who are trying to do right get pushed out by the people who inherently continue to do wrong.
That many of the officers I would talk to told me that once they're done their police career, they're going to join LEAP. And LEAP was full of a bunch of ex-police officers and ex-prison guards and ex-prosecutors, but not current ones. It's a very, very few that would dare do that. And then they get singled out. They get identified, and it's usually not good for them.
Try being effective then.
Yeah, I know.
The same thing as wearing you're wearing a target on your back.
It's like labeling them anti-cop. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, they're not one of us. These guys are against us. I'm sure that's the label that they got there. These guys are straight. We don't agree with what they're saying.
The difference is we're the type of people that respect goes a long way. Respect goes both ways.
It does.
Right? And we would still provide a good officer with respect.
Sure, 100%. I look for those people.
Yeah. I know a few of them.
I want to encourage that. I'm not anti-cop. Yeah. My dad wanted to be a cop. I wanted to respect cops growing up. When you grow up in Surrey and you get into all the behaviors we did growing up, cops become the enemy, and that's just the way it is,
Yeah.
I shook that, later on in my late teen years, realizing that, well, they're not the enemy. And then by the time I was a family man in the mainstream, by the time I quit my job to do this work, I knew that they were just probably good people in a bad place, doing the best they could, and that somebody was going to do the bad work, and that they're not all bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, in life, you're going to have bad apples and good apples, right? And it doesn't matter where you go. Right?
100%. Anything.
And that's the thing. Everybody has the ability to be good.
Yeah.
Right?
So speaking of bad apples, what brings you to Vancouver?
Apples. Hey.
He's visiting this bad
Frozen apples. Okay?
Frozen apples.
Frozen apples. We had minus 48 with a wind chill
last week. Wow, I had to be out of there too.
Hell froze over.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
I couldn't live like that. You know, I'd have to stay indoors all the time and pray that the power stays on.
You know what's funny is that the cold here is relative to the cold there, and the reason why is because there it's a dry cold. Here there's a high moisture content, right? And it'll cut right through you here.
100%.
That wind kicks up, and also people don't understand. Sometimes when it rains here and it's winter, all of a sudden you get a layer of ice like this on everything. Right, and that's why the city shuts down. Right,
Yeah,
where
the streets get really bad underneath it. Like
we're
a little bit of snow, we got ice.
We're a little bit, you know, we don't do this, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of
it's all about that hurts people, and they get stuck on little inclines when they don't have the proper tires, and then nobody can get past them.
Right.
We had a thing here a couple of weeks ago, a little bit of a snowstorm. It wasn't anything too major, but all these people without snow tires couldn't get up those, including the transit buses. And so there was people who didn't get home for like 11, 12 hours trying to get from Vancouver to Langley.
Glenn was telling me all about that.
Wow.
Yeah. He's like, I'm glad I took the back roads home. Of course you are.
I'm glad home is right
I
here.
would be too. See, in Saskatoon where I'm from, you can get home like 6 or 7 different ways. I mean, people like ask me like, well, what time are you gonna be here? I'm like, well, we live in Saskatoon, man. And it only takes 20 minutes or less to get across town, like from the north end to the south end, or the east end to the west end.
So you're usually 10, 15 minutes away from anybody.
Right. You know, like, I mean, but which is funny because I'm always inherently late too.
But more than that. So what's going on there? Eh?
Oh, that's the ADHD, man.
I see.
Yeah. My medication is
stopping for ice cream along the way.
No, my medication is large amounts of marijuana and caffeine.
I see. So you're pulling over to have bong hits or something.
No,
Dabs.
no, I can't do that. You can't do that. In Saskatchewan, they have a zero tolerance policy.
My last experience with a police officer in Saskatchewan.
Oh.
Prairie Cup. Before pandemic. Last one they would have had before the pandemic. Coming home. Roxy and I, you know, we smoked copious amounts of weed, like, you know, all the way around.
It's for medicinal.
So so we get pulled over just outside a small town in Saskatchewan by RCMP. First thing he says when he gets to the door, it smells like a lot of marijuana in there. I said, well, I don't know about a lot, you know, but I got some for sure.
Right.
So, you know.
How much weed do you have? Enough.
Yeah, I said, I got some for sure, and you know, and then you know, pretty soon I was telling him I got a license to possess what I have, and he goes, yeah, I sort of figured that, you know. He didn't even want to talk about weed. He wasn't there to search me or arrest me or nothing. He was going to explain to me how in Saskatchewan they got the highways, and along the highways there's these little towns. Yeah. And the speed limit is this when you're on the highway, but it reduces down when you get to the little town. You got to reduce down your speed before you, and then build it back up. So he was just explaining that to me because he could see I was from BC and I might not understand these things.
Can I ask you a question? So is there a lot of smoke in the van when you guys rolled the windows? Did he maybe get a puff of that? Because that seems like a real stoner way of going about things, right? Like he just went down the tunnel. Right?
Well, he did comment it smells like a lot of marijuana in there, so he did have those chemicals enter his nasal cavity.
That wasn't a great conversation, though.
It was good. He didn't give me a ticket or nothing. He was just, so now you know, have a much better trip home and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure I talked to him about weed. Because I never miss an opportunity to talk to a cop about weed. But I don't remember now because it was a long time ago and I went through a pandemic and now I'm old. But
just all of a sudden.
But I do know that was a very interesting experience, and it did not result in him searching my car or anything like that. And it was the start of several in a row. In fact, ever since then, I've never had a bad experience with cops taking my weed and doing anything like that. And I have been through some roadblocks. In fact, it wasn't that long after I got back from there that I was pulled over in Surrey by a funny little undercover car. She just had lights in it, but it was just a little compact thing. RCMP, like a young woman RCMP, who first thing she said when she got to my window was, "Smells like a lot of marijuana in there." And I thought, is this their new thing?
Are you sure you weren't being catfished? RCMP drive little compacts now?
Yeah. Okay. And so, right away I'm telling her, I've got a license for it and blah, blah, blah. And she doesn't know anything about the MMAR. She doesn't know anything about grandfathering in or anything like that. She's interested. We have the conversation. She doesn't search me or anything, and doesn't give me a ticket for whatever it was she might have given me a ticket for. I forget what that was.
Speeding?
Don't think so. usually, but not in that case. It was just a small side road in Surrey there. I forget why she pulled me over. But I didn't get a ticket or nothing, and that happened. And then there was several others since then where, one cop, I'm texting because a friend of mine has disappeared, and we're really worried about him. Like, we're really, really worried about him. And I put it out to his dad to, what's going on. I forget the exact dynamics of it, but I'm texting at Cambie and Broadway at a red light. I'm texting his dad to, any sign of him, or we still haven't said, whatever it is I'm saying to him. But I felt it was crucially important that I pass these messages on at that point. And there's Buddy Cop at my wing. No,
Hey, how's it going?
I got a great big joint in my hand. So I just put the joint in the ashtray, rolled down the window. Hi, sir. He goes, yeah, you're not allowed to be on your phone, right? And I said, well, it's really important, sir. Actually, I never do that typically, but this is really it's almost a life and death situation. We're really worried about this friend of ours. And he said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. And he said, I'm going to give you this ticket, but I want you to go to that court date because I'm going to be there, and I'm going to tell him that there's extenuating circumstances and you should get a much reduced fine. Okay. So that's what he did. But it never happened. I never got the ticket, but I think I ended up paying for it when I upped my insurance one time.
Still got you.
Yeah.
Damn.
But that was that encounter. Still, once again, didn't say anything about the cloud of smoke that happened when I opened the window there. The last one that was really bizarre, and there's a couple other in between there that were almost equally as bizarre. In fact, police and all kinds of weed stuff, but no charges, no nothing, just good conversations. But the other one, I think I might have talked about it on last week's show. I had talked about it on the show, where we were coming back from Kelowna, where we got a donation from a legal cannabis dispensary. Maybe I haven't talked about this on the show, because that wasn't really, kosher to have a donation to the CSP from a legal cannabis store. But they said that it was there, and it was 10 boxes, and it was up in Kelowna, and could I have somebody bring it down or what have you? And I just got a different car, and I really liked the car, so I said, all right, boys, road trip. I asked them in Kelowna if those 10 boxes would fit in my car if I took out the middle seat in the minivan, and they said, oh yeah. So we head off to Kelowna. Well, I didn't get to Hope, and I had a flat tire in my new car. Not a problem. Not a problem. There was 3 of us, strong men, spare tire underneath. Within 10 minutes, we got the spare on, and we're back on the road and back pulling over because the spare tire had almost 0 air in it. So now we're just
Murphy's Law, eh?
We're just crawling. Well, maybe things happen in 3, because we crawl 15 kilometers down the freeway until we get to a gas station before Hope, and I'm in there putting air in the spare. Boom! Blows up in my face. Holy smokes! That was so loud. Yeah. Now I need 2 tires. The gas station doesn't sell tires. There's tire places in Hope. And there's one taxi company in Hope. So we call the taxi company, and after a while they come and pick us up, and we go to Hope, and we get to Cal Tire there, and Cal Tire does not have the size tire that I need. And neither do the other 2 tire places in Hope have the size tire I need. But they phone ahead, and Chilliwack has it, the Canadian Tire there, but it's only winter tires they have, but at least they have it. So, little other choice, get in the cab, head to Chilliwack. In Chilliwack, I phoned ahead. I found a bunch of different places. They all only had winter tires that fit my car. Nobody had any regular tires that fit my car, or even all season. So, but then I found a used place that said they had 2 used tires that would fit my car, and that's fine with me. Used tires can everything. I'm fine. Yeah. So I go there, and no, they can't find them. They don't have used tires that'll fit my car, but they got winter tires. They got 2 winter tires that'll fit my car.
I think it's more than 3.
Oh man! So I got the winter tires put on. And several hours later, we're back at the car there, and now I've got the 2 new tires on the car, and the original other tire from the other side up as my spare now, so we're good. And we do make it all the way to Kelowna. We're 4.5 hours late. I had said when we had the first flat tire, we put the spare on before we realized the spare didn't have air. I said, well, I guess we're gonna have to make it to Kelowna on just the spare because we really don't have time to pull over and get something else. 4.5 hours later, we're now starting out on the trip again. So we got
by perseverance, my friend.
We got to Kelowna, but we were late, and the store was still open, and they were happy to see me, and they brought me into a room, and there was 1 box, one not that big a box sitting in the middle of the room there, and that had my name on it. And inside the one box were 10 little boxes that were pre-rolls and drinks, 10 milligram drinks. So this was what we went to Kelowna for. There's a bunch of stuff that, I don't even know what I would do with those pre-roll joints at this point. I still got them. But yeah, that happened. So now, this is not the whole story, you see, but at that point, it's all right. We're like, hey, we had an adventure. We got to drive the car. The air conditioning worked great. The music was great. And, everything was great. And we have a nice dinner, and then we head back. Now, I got 2 stops to make on the way back. I got to go pick up some dollar weed that we're selling, 15 pounds. So 30 half-pound bags of the bud that I get to sell for $1 here. Mm-hmm. So I picked that up, and then the other one was a kitten. The kitten, Sadie. Where is Sadie? Sadie was this kitten that I'd been promised for a few weeks. I just needed to get out to Mission to get her, so this is when we're going to get Sadie. So we're heading down the freeway, and we take the Mission X there, and we're heading to the Mission Bridge, and I'm counting down the time segments. I'm going, hey boys, we're 20 minutes away from having that baby kitten. So then we're 10 minutes away from the baby kitten, and then we come off the off ramp of the bridge there, right around the corner, and there's the RCMP with a counterattack roadblock set up. There's Dan sitting like a king with his long red hair and his dab rig in front of him, and all the bags of weed and the LP weed. And there's Sal sitting beside me with the joint in his hand and the lighter in the other. I just put my joint out. It's right there in the ashtray, still smoldering. This big cop, RCMP, comes and sticks his head in my window. And he says, we're looking for drinking drivers. And I said, no, sir, not a chance. I would never do that.
Yeah. I let you go.
he took his head right out.
The look on his face.
Well, he didn't say it. All he said was, well, that's good to hear. Thank you very much. Have a good night, sir. And I just, away I went.
Yeah. Move along, please, sir.
Sal looks over at me like, what just happened? Dan says, that was some ninja voodoo shit, Dan. What just happened there?
The force was with you.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. I just say what I always say.
Yeah, Mission's pretty good about that. I've had that happen with me in Mission, too.
Wow.
Because they're looking for drunken drivers.
I know.
Impaired drivers. So now they say prescription medicine and cannabis, but yeah, they don't. It's kind
Well, I'm
of,
sure I didn't come across impaired because
Yeah.
I would never drive impaired,
Yeah.
and I think I can articulate myself properly. But still, I'm used to a world where basically if they smell weed, you're getting searched. And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you get from there.
Ray,
Things
things
have
have
changed.
changed quite a bit. I will say that. Like,
Yeah.
Ray,
I walked into court today with this bag.
Ray, isn't that dirty? Because I remember you get searched. They find weed on
man.
you. You're fucked.
We would have sacred sessions
sorry, Anna Barb.
in front of we would have sacred sessions in front of the courthouses, but then we would have to make so sure that we didn't have anything on us. So somebody had to stay outside and keep everybody's stash until people came back outside. And now you walk in there, you got your bag of joints. I had my beautiful Gibson glass roach clip in there as well, and I just put it in the tray and got it back. Speaking of Gibson glass, look at that beauty, eh? Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
He just sent me a bunch more.
His mustache toker.
Yeah, the mustache tokers. They're fantastic. This one is made just for me.
Find them on
It's
Instagram.
about 3 times as thick as the other ones because I can't keep from dropping it. And this one's already hit the cement once and passed the test. Tiny little bit right there.
Just gotta be away.
But
Come on.
some sort of an acrylic, I don't know. But so far so good, and thanks to Gibson Glass, and you can see him on Instagram. And this is
You
unique.
sure can, man. He's got some wicked stuff.
He does. And this is unique to him. There's nobody else that's making anything like this out there. So that's good. I just dropped it.
Yeah, I usually bring. I just roll and smoke the joints, right? I mean, I brought my dab rig. I brought like one of my Clark pieces. I like this in the car. That's all the way over there.
So you need a puff, is what you're saying. You shouldn't puff for me. You shouldn't even be so close to me. I got a cold one.
Dude, I got 3 kids under the age of 14. Yeah. My daughter.
So you're like the opposite of these people who don't want to get anywhere near me because they got elderly parents at home. You got young kids, you're good to go, but the elderly parents, stay away from me.
I strongly. Well, one of the things is that our human body is specifically meant to do what?
Well, to build immunity to the environment that we
our
live in.
body is specifically meant to fight off things that is not supposed to be there.
Yeah, well,
right?
to deal with the environment that we're in.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
So,
what it's for.
and our
we
body.
do a pretty good job of it.
Our body also has to learn, right? And so.
Exactly. both individually and collectively.
Right. It does not matter whether it's COVID, RSV. We've had other types of ailments. We had at one point it was the plague, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and it all comes down to the same thing: eventual immunity.
That's right.
Eventually, we learn how to deal. Whereas China right now has spent all this time with everybody so locked down and sterilized that now they have no immunity to this stuff at all. And now they've got other outbreaks going on because they don't have any protection themselves. They haven't gotten anything natural. Whereas here, just about everybody's had it now. Did you have it? Did you get that lousy COVID thing? No, eh? Lucky you.
Me either.
And Glenn didn't either, and I didn't for a while, but in early July I did.
There was a chance at late 2019 where there was a few of us that were like just rank dead.
Right.
But that was long before.
My son thinks that's the case too. That it was in December of the year before when he got something that he thinks was COVID. But I don't know. I don't know any of these things. I'm not as.
Is this one of them high class joints or what?
There's shatter in there, yes.
Just shatter?
Just
So
shatter.
that's mid class or what?
I mean, it's just a joint.
it's just a joint.
It's a Glen joint.
It's a Glen
They
joint.
call it a joint. Yes.
I don't know. Them Glen Last or class joints are pretty good. Or
So
high
that's
class.
some super pink with some shatter.
So we're waiting to see, I guess, about court.
Waiting to see.
We're
You're
scheduled
back?
to go back in 1 week on the 20th to set a trial date. But if Jack and I come up with something that we think is adequate or acceptable or going to do the job in respect to this resolution document, where we can have an agreement of facts
Right.
that will then let a judge decide, and if that is, the way it should be, then I'll probably go along with that.
Well, yeah, because that's writing.
And then we don't have a trial date. We have a judge who's now going to look at the facts that's presented to him.
Well, what's constitutional and what's unconstitutional.
Right, and for me, some of the question would be, well, how much information do we get to put into that resolution document? Can we put our application to Health Canada in there? Can we put these letters of support that we've got? Can we have some affidavits from some of the experts that are going to testify on our behalf? Can those all go in there as well? How much of a presentation do we get to make in this resolution document? Because the Crown, they've got their disclosure already all set out, right? They've got a huge big envelope with a stack of papers about yay big with all sorts of pictures and signatures and stories and badge numbers and you name it. Although no mention anywhere in there of anybody ever being harmed in any way by what we're doing here. After 6 years, I felt like putting that in my little, because I gave my lawyer, a rundown of the points that I would want to make in this thing today. And what I didn't put in there is that, the amount of milligrams of high dose edibles that we've dispensed is in the tens of millions over the last 6 years.
Yeah.
But do I want to admit something like that when I'm dealing with who knows who with respect to the judge? Like maybe he's going to look at that and go, well, that's not a good thing. Sure, you didn't hurt anybody with all that, but you sure as well could have, and you're not supposed to have done that, and that's a really big crime that you just committed there, right?
Well, no, I disagree.
Well, I don't know. That's the thing.
But the judges are there for a reason. They're supposed to be impartial to the fact of what is the law, right? And the basically the breakdown of such, right? So when it comes to one thing you have going for you is that every time that we've gone to court over a constitutional challenge that deals with cannabis, we've won.
Pretty much, yeah. I think it was one we didn't get the win we wanted, but other than that,
Well, we did. I
15
see,
times.
but that's the thing is we didn't get the win that we wanted, right? And sometimes when it breaks down to it, sometimes it's not about a win because compromise, and that's what peace is about, is compromise. And sometimes the only way to that answer is through compromise. So
I got a great compromise. They can continue their high barrier cannabis for those rich people that want to purchase it that way and pay those kind of dollars for it. As long as somewhere in the world there's easy access to low barrier stores that have the whole range of cannabinoids in all of their different forms and in really reasonable prices for people.
I still think
if they allow that, then they can have their compromise.
I still think it should be the same as what you can buy carrots at the supermarket or you can buy carrots at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference there. A large difference. I mean, you have a higher end product, right? When you go to the farmer's market,
You would think.
Well, because usually most things are well taken care of, right? 90% of the time. A lot of homegrown type food.
I would trust farmers market's food over
Right.
supermarket food.
Right,
any
and
day.
it's funny how they both resemble each other. And you know something else I forgot to mention is the resemblance of how cannabis prohibition and legalization has followed almost the same pathway as alcohol.
Right.
It's just taking longer. Right, because there was a point in time where you
Well, and they
could
put
get,
the cannabis stores in with the liquor stores here in British Columbia.
right, but there was a point in time, like in the very early days, where the only way for you to get alcohol during
Through
prohibition was through prescription. Right, and it took a long time for that to become apparent. Now we also know that now that
Not that
alcohol is
long.
really, really bad for you. Right?
I think they kind of knew that back then.
Well, yeah, but they didn't care.
Well, it's all about money. These that's the unfortunate thing that we've been discovering. These things are not driven by people who care about people. These things are driven about people who care about money.
Right, you're
And
not
that's it.
You're opportunistic, right? I mean, you're not no Al Capone here,
Yeah.
right? Right, like not opportunistic that way. Opportunistic to help people. Shit, I think
Yeah.
that's a great thing.
Well, I'm trying to do what it takes to win this argument with the government about what should be available to people. And am I going to take advantage of opportunities that would allow that to happen? Well, I'd be stupid not to. I quit my job to try to do this work 20 years ago or so. I didn't do that so that I could just ignore, an opportunity so that I'm not called an opportunist. Like, that's ludicrous. Obviously, you're going to take advantage of whatever opportunity comes along to help you gain to your goals. I mean, why wouldn't you? If you don't, somebody else is going to. So they're just so wrong, and it is so disturbing to me. Like, it really is disturbing. I'm disturbed on fundamental levels about what I'm dealing with. When I hear what happened today in court, that the prosecution, is painting me as being somebody who should be prosecuted and jailed because I've decided to prey upon this situation in order to benefit myself. Like, that just, I mean, I benefit myself because I get to feel like I'm a good human. And I'm doing something about a situation that I care about.
That's their job.
So that's the benefit, that's the value, and that's why I do it. I mean, my value system is pretty clear. I understand it quite well. This is what gives me positive energy. This is what makes me feel like I'm okay in a world that's not okay. So, that's why I do it, and it's a value to me. But I'm not here trying to be a millionaire. In fact, not that there's anything wrong with money. Money is very important. You gotta have it. It's the only way you get to do most things, and it's very important in any type of a mission that you have. If I didn't have some money and resources here, we wouldn't have gotten to where we are. We wouldn't have this storefront. I wouldn't have the RV. We wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. It's important to have money. I'm not denouncing it. I'm just gonna tell you another little quick story about myself, and that is that I read a book by a fellow named Jim Jones called "If You Can Count to 4, You Can Have and Do Anything." And he was not the Jim Jones of Guyana. He was the Jim Jones. I think he was the 13th kid born into that family of 13 kids, and they were all quite successful individuals. And he was curious, and he spent most of his time just studying what his brothers and sisters were doing to be successful and becoming an expert on the mechanisms of success. And so he wrote this book as a result of that called "If You Can Count to 4, You Can Have and Do Anything." And counting to 4 was identify what it is that you want. Ignore all of those people who are going to tell you that you can't get what you want. Imagine that you already have what you want. And then take every opportunity to move forward towards the goal of what it is that you want. Those 4 things were counting to 4, and you can have and do anything. So for me, I think I was probably about 19 or 20 years old when I was reading this book. And you got to go through the exercise. The book takes you through the exercise. It makes you think about and admit to what it is that you think you want, right? So for me, I wanted $1 million. That was just the thing. Give me $1 million, and I can rule the world. I can do, I'll turn that into money. I just want $1 million. So then part of the exercise is, of course, imagine that you already have the $1 million. And they go into some depths about, the way that you would imagine that. And that you would make sure that you cover all the bases and you get a real good feel for what it feels like. Well, for me, it wasn't really enjoyable to live that reality in my imagination because I couldn't trust the people around me. I couldn't trust the women around me. And that was the biggest thing for me is I thought, if I got lots of money, I got lots of women that are interested in me. and they're not really interested in me. And how am I going to know? And I'll never know. And some of these people are going to take advantage of me, and there's going to be an ongoing group of leeches that are going to come along and they're going to want a piece of me. And my privacy is not going to be very, very good. And then I got all this money that I have to worry about losing. And so I just talked myself out of it. That's what I did. I decided that no, I don't want $1 million. I want $1 million worth of experiences in my life. I want to feel what there is to feel. I want to see what there is to see. I want to have friends and meet people and learn things. And all of that is money.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So that's just a decision I made early on in my life.
Yeah.
I'm not all about having a whole bunch of money, although I'm certainly all about having enough money for what you need to do. And as you get older, you need to have some resources. But yeah.
Well, no, it's the same thing as that. It's like having the whole genie thing, and you know, be careful what you wish for,
100%,
right?
yeah.
And it's not just what you wish for; it's how you wish for it and what it is exactly. You need to be very specific, and you'll find that there are many different pathways to it, right? But again, you know, if you want to move forward, it requires some risk.
I just want to have a good life where I felt good most of the time, at least about myself. You know, it's hard to feel good about a world where there's so much going wrong all the time, and there's so many sad stories out there. Within each family, there's a whole bunch of sad stories going on all the time. Any individual, certainly around here, but I get the sense pretty much anywhere. If you really got in and had a heart-to-heart with somebody, you're going to find out some things are going on with that you never would have guessed. But you know, they got some issues, family issues, societal issues, all these different things. It's a tough world to be in.
It's not a nice place.
It's not that nice a place. So you want to at least feel good about yourself. You know, you don't want to have to. I mean, I don't like to be the person that has to think, oh man, I got what I needed, but I had to really hurt somebody to get it. Like that wouldn't be me. You know, I wouldn't be happy with that equation there. That's not a value.
Walk over.
So, but that's just me. You know, and I recommend that for people, but that's just me. You know, what do I know? Lots of different ways to live your life out there, and maybe taking advantage of the weak and the poor. You know, pillaging whenever you can. You know, if somebody leaves something there, flip and take it. Nobody matters but you. Maybe that's a better way to live. I don't know. You know, it doesn't feel like it to me. I'm not born that way. My parents had different things that they instilled into me. Were you brought up religiously?
Yeah, actually, I was. Yeah. I went to church with my grandmother like 3 or 4 times a week.
3 or 4 times a week. That's pretty religious.
Well, but you know, I think it was more to help her than anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have a religious experience? Did you thump the Bible to your friends for a while or anything like that?
No. I've never. I've always been a stark.
You're too much of a scientist for that.
Stark non-believer, essentially, right? Yeah, everything's based more on science. Like I understand the science behind it and the advancement, and there's so many things that we don't understand, right? But,
yeah, me too. I mean, my parents instilled in me all those religious stories and stuff.
Right, but I find organized religion, period, right? So much is based on politics and control, right? But there are a few good things about most religions,
sure,
right? And they're really straightforward. It's A, don't be a shitty person, right? B, don't be shitty to others, right? Like, so be good to people.
Right? Be good to the world.
Yeah.
Be good to people.
Be good to yourself.
And be good to yourself.
Right?
Yeah, basic stuff like that.
And try and help each other out.
Yeah.
That's it.
I agree.
Right? And if it doesn't matter what religion or what you believe, if you can just follow those like 3 or 4 basic rules.
Well, the tenets of the religion, the ways to live, are typically good. Some of the ideas and threats and consequences that are used as tools to manipulate people, not so good. You know, I mean, most religions have their version of the golden rule. I like the opposite version of the golden rule. Don't do unto others what you wouldn't want done unto you, you know. And those things are all good. You know, that Christianity is supposed to be a love-based religion, although the Old Testament would sort of disagree greatly with that.
If you guys have ever read that. I mean,
yeah, a pretty angry God there for sure. And yeah, brutal. But so yeah,
Dude,
I had my parents.
You
know, they took me to all these revival meetings, and we went to church every Sunday twice, and sometimes during the week. My parents and we went during the week for choir practices and prayer meetings and the rest of it. And my mom was a Sunday school teacher, and somewhere around 14, 15, I guess the later end of grade 7, I went to an evangelical revival meeting
Oh yeah.
out in a parking lot, and I ended up at the front altar there with people praying for me and hands on my shoulders. And all the rest of it. And I really did have that epiphany of an experience, like that real religious feeling that a human being can get when you have those sorts of beliefs going on about what's happening. You really can conjure up these incredible emotions. And so that lasted with me for probably about a year of wandering the halls of school with a Bible under my arm and all the rest of it. And I believe I was in grade 8, and I'd started to smoke some cannabis with my friends. And I can see the camo jacket I was wearing with the jeans as I'm coming around the corner on Bluebird Crescent there in the house that's still there. And I've been, ever since before I left my house, just up the street around the corner, I've been rolling this around. I've been rolling the whole thing around. Like, okay, so in the beginning, all there was God, and there was nothing else, so he's created everything that is. Okay, well then he's responsible for everything that is. And if he then decided, and he had some little war with one of his angels who thought he could be as good as God, and that resulted in that angel becoming the devil, and a whole bunch of other angels going with that angel, and then there's this war between God and the devil, and now because of that he's going to create these humans on a planet, and let the humans decide which one to follow, and it's a whole stupid story that doesn't make any sense, you know? Like, and then so of course these brand new humans, you know, born as adults and placed into a garden where you got everything you could ever want there, and all your needs are met. There's only one thing: just don't eat the fruit of this one particular tree here, because that's the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil.
Which is, I'm pretty sure.
Wouldn't want to have that. You know,
Right,
wouldn't want to know the difference between good and evil.
You know what's funny about what you just said is I'm pretty sure that cannabis was that. Because look at what happened.
Tree.
The minute you touch cannabis, all of a sudden you started doing the math, and you're like, wait a minute.
Exactly. I had come full circle.
Something's not
there
right.
I was imbibing in the tree that they were told they shouldn't be imbibing in, because then they were going to know the difference between good and evil. And so, yeah, I went, well, that's crazy. I've now got, I know what kids are like. Like you take a kid, I was one at that time basically, and you say, you can have everything in this room, Johnny. There's a whole bunch of wonderful toys here for you, and all these other wonderful things with motors and everything else, and you just play to your heart's content, but don't touch that one.
No, right.
I
teach that to my kids. Actually, it's about how curiosity killed the cat. I'm like,
Yeah.
and I said, curiosity make kids do dumb shit.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, I remember I caught my daughter. I had gone to sleep one day. I had an afternoon nap, right? Because I'm getting old, and so I wake up and I notice that there's a couple of like matchsticks in this candle. Right, that we have, and this is a few years ago, and so I went and I questioned my daughter about it. I'm like, "Are you playing with fire in the house?" She's like, "Well, yeah." Anyway, I'm like, "Okay, listen, we have to have a discussion with this."
Don't want to burn the house down.
Right, but I explained the difference and what we do versus what we don't do, right? And then I started allowing her to use them.
Right.
So doing things when we go out camping, I let her start the fire using the lighter,
Nice.
or allowing her to control things, right, with direction, of course.
Yeah.
And what that did is that it took the curiosity out of it.
That's right.
Right, which means
You tell them they can't do it, they become obsessed with it.
Right. But at least this way, it's more of a controlled demolition.
100%.
You know what I mean?
They're not kids forever. They're going to need to learn how to deal with this stuff. You just don't want them doing it by themselves out behind the garage with a bunch of gasoline. You know, you want them doing it in a controlled fashion where you can help them understand it and use it, and they don't get hurt in the process and nothing burns down.
Right.
100%.
But that's the thing, it's also giving them the trust for the ability to do things, because that's honestly what kids want, is they want the acceptance and the ability to do things and feel like an adult.
Well,
right?
God didn't know this. He'd never had children before. This was his first.
Great, that poor bastard.
This was his first attempt at parenting.
Was Jesus his son?
No, this was later.
Oh.
Jesus didn't come along.
We're talking about Old Testament.
Jesus didn't come along for thousands and thousands.
Man, you're way
of
too
years.
far ahead in the movie.
Although he was part of the Holy Trinity apparently from the beginning, so there's a little bit of a weirdness in all of that for sure, because Jesus is eternal like the Holy Spirit and God. They've been a Trinity since forever, so I guess he did have a son, but he never put his son in that position. I mean, Jesus was equivalent to God, so he could have whichever toy he wanted in the room. There was no special tree or special toy. But in this case, now he's got these two humans there, and he's going to tell them, everything you want, great life for you, not that tree. How long is that supposed to last? I'm not God, but I can tell you.
Not that
A couple
tree.
of brand new humans,
My tree.
that ain't gonna last very long. And especially when you got some sophisticated God-like creature, almost as powerful as God. Hell, he thought he could be God. And now he's there to try to fuck with the humans because, you know, that's what he's doing there. That's the whole game that him and Yahweh are playing there is, you know, go see what you can do with these humans. So he goes down there. He takes the form of the most beautiful animal, which was a snake at the time. But a snake with legs and arms and could talk in whatever language they use. Not born with languages as adults. It's a weird world back then in the Garden of Eden. But there's this snake, and he waits till he's got Eve to himself because he's a suave devil. And then he talks her into it. Not hard. Wouldn't have been hard.
Slides right in there.
God really wants you to know. This is a test. He wants you to have the knowledge of good and evil. Of course he does. He's just testing you. Go ahead. You should eat this apple. I know better than you. I've been around for a while. I'm smarter than you. I'm this great animal in this forest here. So it does whatever he said, you know. He probably just whispered behind his ear to her ear something else, and then she ate the apple. But who knows? Anyway, she ate the apple. Of course she did. And then that's it. They're banned from the garden. God comes down and sees that they've done that. How did he know? They were ashamed of their nakedness. So because having the knowledge of good and evil meant that all of a sudden, you can't look at those, right? Built in the image of God, apparently. Human body is built in the image of God. And then having eaten the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they're now ashamed of their bodies. So God comes down and sees them trying to hide their bodies and says, oh my goodness, you ate that tree over there, you're out of here, you're banished from the garden, and you will surely die. And they did, about 700 years later, according to the Bible. So for several hundred years they lived after being banished and told they were going to die. And during that time they had a whole bunch of kids. Semi-populated that corner of the earth, if you will. Went on for quite a while. Went on for numerous generations of, you know, putting people on the planet, you know. And so God looks down, apparently. This is me at that age in that camo jacket, coming around the corner now, putting all this together and telling myself this little story about what Mom and Dad have been telling me about how this all went down. And this is what I've come up with. And so now, many generations later, God is not happy. I should add that I recognized immediately that there was omniscience supposedly involved here. That this all-knowing, eternal, all-powerful God.
I fucked up.
I fucked up. He's not happy with how things are going.
No.
He shouldn't have been happy with that first little argument with the devil. Like, he should have got that one properly resolved.
Man.
Like fucking disappear that guy.
Right, you go back in his notebook, he's like, man.
Just fucking...
that's where I went wrong. Right fucking there. Right.
So,
should have added instead of subtracted.
he's gonna fix it, right? He's gonna fix it.
Shit.
You gotta fix it. You're a god. You're a fixer of things. You know, you have to make a mistake. I guess gods can make mistakes, but I thought that was the whole thing about gods. They didn't make mistakes. But anyway, gonna fix it. So the plan is, you know what the plan was? We're gonna kill everybody that's not a bird or a fish by flooding the whole planet, except for this one righteous family that I believe in. And we're going to let that one righteous family go and involve themselves in a whole lot of incest for several decades, and then repopulate the planet, and we'll start all over again. So that's what he did. He had this one guy build a big boat, and then he gathered, you know, 2 of each of the animals that he wanted to have survive there, and then all the other ones died except for the birds and the fish. They had to live.
And look at how that turned out, right?
The lions slept with the lambs.
Again,
nobody ate each other.
And the unicorns missed the ark.
Yeah, I guess the unicorns missed the ark. I don't know where the dinosaurs fit into all this, but that was another thing. My mom was saying that.
I figured it out. You know, after that long of a boat ride, you get kind of hungry.
You would think,
right?
40 days and 40 nights.
Like,
yeah.
You got elephants.
But you know, God.
Right? Hey man, have you ever had kangaroo burgers?
Yeah.
You're not bad.
But it's just like you're writing a movie. It's just like you're writing a movie here. You got the obvious out for everything. This is God we're talking about. So these animals don't have to get hungry. They don't have to eat each other. They're going to survive the trip. But that's not the point.
What, from licking wood on the boat?
Who cares about the animals? This is about human beings and how they became subservient to the almighty, all-knowing, you know, all-powerful God here. And so that's what happens. This family survives and they engage in incest and there's a whole bunch of new humans and that goes on for quite a while, a couple thousand years, right? And then he's not happy again. He said, damn it anyway, these humans, that devil, what's going on? And so he's got a new solution. He's going to separate out from his triad, his son part, send him down in some other human body as a baby to grow up and be a human amongst us for 33 years, and then get killed for his beliefs and die a horrible death on a cross, and then, well, not really die, but pretend to die for 3 days, and they'll put him in a tomb, and 3 days later, he's back up in heaven on the right-hand side of God, like as if it never happened. It was a ride at the P&E. It scared him a little bit at first, but he didn't get scathed by it in any way. There's no bruises or broken bones. He's good. And anybody who believes that that happened and that's real, you get to go to heaven, and everybody else is going to hell. And that's my parents' story.
What? I thought it was everybody else. If they do believe, or they don't believe, they're normal, and then everybody else that just believes in zombies, because that really sounds like a zombie to me.
Well, that's not how they see it.
I know, but
they see
the math is pretty sound.
They see it as ascending to heaven, where your spirit leaves your body is left behind. In some cases, they say that the clothes would be in a pile and the whole body's gone. In other cases, it's just people are slumped over in their cars and they're dead. But the spirit is taken away, and you go to heaven, where you get a one-on-one relationship with the other billion people and God, and your parents or anybody that you love that was good is there, and there's no more sickness. The streets are paved with gold. You walk and talk with the Almighty God on a daily basis, and no more pain. All your good friends are there. The bad people are not there. They're burning down in hell really horribly. So I just rolled all that around real quickly in that little walk from my parents' house to around the corner. I was coming around the corner when I kind of put that end of the story together there, and I just went, wait a minute, this is not the truth. And I said, I don't know what's true, but I know that's not true. And I said, I don't think my parents are lying to me. I think they believe this stuff, but they're wrong.
Yeah.
And I need to find out what's right. And from there I went and I talked to a number of different religious leaders from a number of different faiths.
Yep.
And the statement that came out of almost all of those meetings was, well, you have a lot more confidence in what you believe in than what I do and what I believe in.
Right. But I mean, but admittance at its core is interesting, because what that means is that those people that you talk to are humble, at least to understand that.
Sure, they're good people.
And that's a good thing, right? So, and I like, don't get me wrong, I strongly believe that it's not about what you believe in, it's how much you believe in it, because faith is a very powerful emotion, and it's a very powerful thing. So, I mean, it doesn't matter whether or not you believe in God or you believe in this beautiful little, Advent calendar, right? But I mean, it's how much you believe in it. If it provides you with strength and whatnot for your soul and your drive and whatnot, then who's to say that that's not
if
good?
It's working for you. If you're not hurting other people,
yeah,
I have no trouble with any of it.
You can believe in a flying spaghetti monster.
Whatever you want to believe
Which
in.
people, right? And that's
as long as you're not hurting other people, that's fine with me.
Right, like you said, it's about them like four little things.
And now I don't know what I believe. I mean, I don't believe in mainstream religion.
I know what you do believe.
What's that?
That you believe that cannabis is the answer.
I think that love is the answer.
Well, that too.
I think
Cannabis and love go very well together.
Cannabis is a vehicle to love.
Right.
It's a love-based drug. It brings out love in people, love for your environment,
It also
nature.
It brings out the munchies and the urge to have a nap.
That's love for food, and that's love for sleep.
Right.
There's a lot of love going on with cannabis.
And love is one of the things that people who are dealing with trauma and addictions and other things like that really need.
Yeah.
Right.
And you love to laugh, because cannabis makes you laugh.
Super good.
And laughter is one of the best forms of medicine.
It is.
Here we get a lot of comments
at my
about
own
how
jokes.
it helps people sleep. And sleep is so important. I mean, even for people in the mainstream, a lot of them have trouble sleeping. Here, on the downtown east side, it's a horrible epidemic of people who cannot sleep properly for a variety of different reasons. They're in pain, there's sirens, there's bugs, there's trauma, emotion.
There's people that have children,
So much, and so sleeping is such a valuable commodity down here, and that's one of the things that cannabis offers people, for most people in the form of heavy indicas. And it's so important. I mean, that's one of the things that people report to us that really, is one of the more profound things. Is they'll come and say, I got 16 hours of sleep since I saw you last.
Right? That never.
So, yeah, I mean, I believe that that I'm on some swirling rock around a giant ball of gas that's providing heat, nourishment, and vitamins to this planet, which sustains life extensively throughout all of it. In all waters, you take a drop of any water on this planet and put it under a microscope, and it's teeming with life. You take any spoonful of soil. You take that spoonful of soil from way deep in the earth in the Arctic, put it under a microscope, it's teeming with life. Everything, everywhere. This planet supports life. It's been going on for 4+ billion years, and I believe that I'm the result of that. My ancestors 4 billion years ago were microbes for about 1 billion years until they learned how to cooperate and communicate with each other in ways that resulted in cellular organisms that then resulted in multicellular organisms, that on and on and on until the last million or so years, where the animal life on this planet evolved to us with independent thumbs, most of us, and sorry, Glenn. And
Opposable thumbs are important.
They are.
That's how I play video games.
I know. And cerebral cortexes and other things, language and other things that have made us a very unique life form that's evolved on this particular planet, above the other ones, in that we can manipulate the planet the way that we do with our technologies and roads and cars and all the rest of it. I mean, we're some kind of amazing creatures that are 4 billion years old, and you owe your heritage to so many generations before you that all managed to get the deed done. Your mom managed to have kids, her mom managed to have kids, her mom managed to have kids, and that goes on so far back over billions of years. Yeah. And through that evolution, we've been all types of different life forms, and like I say, I think we started out as single microbes, and then went on to be complex single-cell organisms, and then complex multicellular organisms, and then from there to intelligent.
It's been a long time coming, and we might as well do something good with it.
Well, you get one shot. I'm kind of nihilistic in that respect too, because I think that nothing really matters in the end, that all of this is dust, that we'll be sucked into an exploding sun, but that's not for 1 billion or so years, and we'll be lucky if we survive the next 100 years the way our technology is. I mean, I do think humanity in some form is going to survive what's happening right now, but we're in extremely volatile times with what's happening here on this planet.
Honestly, I mean, the planet and everything else, I'm more worried about artificial intelligence right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
Our worry doesn't help much, right? And, we're aware of these things. We know that there's these possibilities all around us, and we're in a very, very scary future right now. But to be scared doesn't help. To be worried doesn't really help. If there's anything you can do about it, then you do it. But you're absolutely right, and there's people out there talking about the dangers of AI and what might happen, as we move forward. And who knows what people are doing on private islands with billions of dollars.
And before video games, we're using our thumbs to roll joints.
That's right. Well, that's what I use my thumbs to roll joints for.
We've been using them for roll joints before video games.
But I mean, you know what?
So,
the more little things of good that we do, they add up. Right?
Well, that's my
If
religion.
you do something good.
That's my religion. This planet exists in all those forms, like I just said, and I'm here. So, what am I going to do here? What am I going to get out of this? What am I trying to do and be? And that's kind of my religion, is how do I live my life based on that I've devised over these years about do no harm, don't do unto others what you don't want done to yourself. For myself personally, I don't want to drive myself crazy with worrying about stuff that I can't control.
That's right.
So one of my big ones is there's only 2 types of things in life: those things you can control and those things you can't. And don't worry about the stuff you can't control. And of the stuff you can control, there's only 2 types of things: are the things you can control, those that are worth the effort, and those that aren't. So unless it's worth your effort and you're going to do it, don't worry about it. Don't waste a lot of time on it. There's a lot of other good things you need to think about. So I live with the adages and foundations of those types of idioms that kind of guide me in the choices that I make about how to live my life. And I'm just trying to feel good. I think everybody's just trying to feel good. And I've been very fortunate in my life. I found myself lamenting yesterday to one of my coworkers, or one of my colleagues here, about how I felt. I was having another day of this metabolic lactosis because of low blood sugar, because I cut out sugar and chocolate out of my life, and I haven't quite properly replaced that. For my body's going through a little bit of withdrawal, I guess. And it's really hard. You can't hardly move. It's like everything's seized up, like you just exercised too much. And lactic acid
you're just tight.
Stiffened you right up. And so overtired, and you can't think straight, and your head's thick and stuff. So I went through it, and I got a cold. So I got all these things going on. So I'm sitting here complaining to my colleague there, who I just hired recently, Well, David put things into perspective for me pretty quick because David I know because he was in the CSP lineup for most of those years, and he's been around for all this time, and I think he's a really nice older gentleman that's capable of being a good performing human being. Hasn't been given proper opportunities over the last number of years. Almost got out of here a couple of years ago. He was so excited he had a place lined up, and then the pandemic took that away from him. So when I had a need for some new faces around here, I thought I'd give him a shift and give him an opportunity. So I did that, and he's worked out quite well. So he's had a few other shifts, and he was here yesterday, and I'm talking about how old age sucks. Oh my God, I can hardly move. My body hurts just sitting here and da-da-da. And he says, yeah, for a lot of us, we're in the shelters every night because he's still in a shelter every night. Yeah. And all we got is a backpack that's got all our stuff in it, and it's heavy. And all we get is a little cot that, I wake up in the morning, sometimes it takes me an hour and a half before I can start to move, and right away I went, oh man, David, you're so right. I'm so sorry, man. I am living like a king here in this space. I got my little room up there. I got a roof over my head. I got a nice pillow and a nice bed to sleep on. And so, I had no business complaining, when people's plights are that, right outside my door, right within my staff. So, anyway.
It's a stark reminder. Well, but that's how we gain wisdom and we learn, right?
That's right.
I mean,
so it keeps me humble.
That's right. Humble enough to know better.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm just lucky, that's all. I'm very fortunate. I could have been just as easily. I did this on a show recently. I talked about how close I came through several different channels I was on in my life. I could have been one of these people out here that are looking for help easily. So thank goodness for my cousin making the National Hockey League, for cannabis, for my parents' religious upbringing, even though I set that aside when I was like 15, 16 with that little walk around the corner like I mentioned. Still the foundations of the edicts, of that religion are still all about who I am. I didn't discard or set aside any of those things. Love your fellow man and all the things
they've just advanced. They've changed a little bit.
Well, they've shaped who I am.
Exactly.
When I'm dealing with somebody, I'm going to treat them with respect, and until they don't treat me with respect, and then I'll make decisions on what I do. But it's going to be on the high. I'll take the high road, and I'll, all those different things. That's my parents raised me to be that. I didn't really decide a lot of that stuff. That was already who I was. What I did was I took that foundation and then sought the truths about our world and the truths about how and why I wanted to behave in this world, and made it my own. But they originated with my parents and probably with their parents before them, and on and on. It went through many generations. So I'm fortunate that I had all that going on in my life, and many people didn't have that, and many people are out there just because one of those paths they were on, they didn't get the right break to get it to go the other way.
That's right.
And it only takes one, and then you're here. And once you're here, it's hard to get out of here.
And not only that, honestly, none of us are very far from being there ourselves.
That's right.
Right? And I constantly try to remind myself, like, not only do I have, am I lucky enough to have a roof over my head and everything else, but also how lucky I am that not lucky that I'm that far away from being in the exact same place they are. Because, one lost job, one miss of a payment, one anything, right? And everybody's even for like our event this year for Tubes and Dubes in Saskatchewan, in the main part of our event, even Glenn's seen a bit of it on his end. We've had a hard time raising donations. Our donations are down 75% over the last 4 years. Right, and they were going up.
The economy is sucking all over the place.
Right, and I feel for people, and I get it.
In the past are needing donations now.
Yeah, and I get it, and there's nothing I can do about it. Right, I put our event actually until after Christmas in January.
I see.
Well, there's a lot of groups out there doing good right now and helping people where they can.
Yeah.
Right, and especially around this time of year. So.
Well, you guys, especially in Saskatchewan, need those socks.
Especially
long
January.
past
January is
Christmas.
one of our coldest months.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
And since we already hit minus 48 once with the wind chill, I'm sure that there's going to be a few more car batteries.
But that's not the only reason that you're here.
No.
You're here to support an event. What's that about?
We're doing the Christmas event at
Christmas gathering.
Christmas gathering. Thank you for the correct wording. I was looking for that earlier. The correct wording.
The Christmas gathering.
It's 420 Christmas gathering at the New Amsterdam Cafe on the 17th, which is Saturday.
Coming up here, yeah.
4:20 till 10
Any
p.m.
details on that?
4:20 till 10 p.m. Actually,
$5 to get in.
$5 to get in.
Right.
You know.
And I hear they're going to be raising money for the CSP, so that's awesome.
And for tubes and dudes.
And for
Yeah.
tubes and dudes.
Right. Well, we're
Which
just
is kind of a CSP initiative, sort of. It's yours, but I mean, a CSP decided,
we're
through
together,
the
yes.
Well,
take this on.
but I mean that's the whole point of Tubes and Dudes. Is like I said, it's supposed to be about everywhere, and what we would eventually want to do is just have it so I can call Glenn and say, okay, Glenn, our donations are good so far this year. Here's your stock order of 400 pairs, or great, and then we can send one to Calgary or Edmonton or Toronto, and we can just send them there for somebody to pick up and then organize the other side of the event, which is the cannabis side, which is a lot easier.
Yeah.
So that the whole idea is to do something good, right?
Cool.
But
Well, good for you for doing that, and anybody's welcome to come to this event.
yeah, as far as I
I
know.
can't believe
So New
Yeah, it's a
Amsterdam
public
Cafe,
place.
Saturday the 17th.
Come hang out.
Yeah.
4:20
Come
till
burn
10
mine,
p.m. You say?
Yep.
All right.
I mean, it
Yeah.
says cafe, so I'm pretty sure they have drinks and like snacks.
Oh, they do.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, they got all
Need
that
some
stuff.
popcorn.
There. Cannabis Culture's right next door.
And some
Although they won't be
chips.
open past 6, I don't believe. So.
Oh yeah.
But the lounge might be upstairs.
Might be.
The upstairs would probably be open, yeah.
That's a great place to visit as well if you're coming in just for this event.
Well,
you haven't been
it's-
to Cannabis Culture. You can look
It's
to
not
see
just this event, but because I had to move Tubes and
I didn't
Dudes,
mean
and-
you. I mean other people. I'm
wow.
talking to them. I know
Well, I'm
you're-
not
I
good
know
enough.
you're- Yeah, you are. I was talking to them.
Well, I'm here.
I knew you
I'm
made a
here.
mistake. So.
But I mean, I don't just
Pretty
come here
fast,
for the events, and it's like you guys are my friends. And
Well, and it was 48 degrees below zero, so.
He wanted to be in the Bahamas.
This ain't the Bahamas.
You said go to BC, and all of a sudden it was just like,
You know,
like I can fly there.
you realize that at this time of year, BC stands for bitter cold.
Really? Really?
No, yeah.
Oh.
Best cannabis.
The best
Bring
cannabis,
cash.
but bitter cold.
Yeah.
That's what it stands for, whatever you want to call it. So great to see you again.
Thanks, man.
It's nice when you come into town and
Yeah, well,
share a little bit
back.
of your.
I just got in today, right?
Right?
So
And just not that long ago.
yeah, no, they let me
Or
through.
you would have
the
come and
flight.
been disappointed at court too.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, you would have. I mean, I tried to make it here, but I can't control if the flight was late. You know, the wings were icing over, so they had to spray that stuff on there. And in Saskatchewan, right? And they're like,
I have
it
no
took an
doubt in
extra
my
hour.
mind that you didn't just pull over to have a bong hit.
Well, every time I go to the airport, I'm in and out of security like 4 times to the point where they get to know me, right? Because I can't sit in the airport for
So
2
is that,
fucking
is
hours.
that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I go outside and then the next time I come in, they're like, "Oh, has anything changed?" I'm like, "Well, no, not really. I mean, my bag's a little. I don't have as much weed anymore. I kind of I went outside to smoke some, right? But then when I was on the airplane, my back was starting to hurt, and I'm like, I knew we were just about to land because they all of a sudden, doo, doo, put your seatbelt on. I'm like, oh, okay, that means we're gonna land. So I'm like, oh man, my back hurts. I'm like, I'm gonna roll a joint. So I'm sitting there and I'm grinding up this joint, right? And I can hear people kind of murmuring about the smell.
And they'll say, hey, it smells like the good stuff going on. over there.
Right. And then the stewardess comes over and she's like, excuse me, sir, is there a way that you could make that smell less? I'm like,
It's like only if we lit it on fire. We could light it on fire and
no, there's not. Yeah, I mean, it could. I'm like, I'm just getting my medicine ready.
Well, get her to
my,
do it.
my back hurts.
Here's what you do. Here's what you do. You just take this here, you light it on fire, and that should kill the smell.
Yeah, actually, no, they were really good about it. I've been flying with Flair Airlines, and they're relatively cheap. You can get a flight through them, like ridiculously priced. Ridiculous. So I mean, if you come to Saskatchewan to visit ever again, I mean, you do have that piece of land there, man.
I'll get there at some point, somehow.
Man, I'm telling you,
I need this thing to resolve here in
we
Vancouver.
could throw a rave there. Wait, where is it?
White
Property?
Whitewood.
It's in Whitewood.
Oh, that property.
That property.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's not really raveable.
Meet your new landlord.
Is it close to any good lakes? Because I like fishing.
Close to the
I
gas
don't know.
station.
I don't think so.
Close to the gas
I
station.
remember it's really
Two
close to the
highways
gas
and a
station.
gas station.
Yeah.
You could fence it
Maybe
off,
we
put
should
it in
talk-
live band, you know.
Maybe we should talk to Pat Warnecki about that spot.
I think it would be a really good spot for what he's thinking about.
Yeah.
So,
But we'll leave
who
that
knows?
for later time when
Yeah, I should talk to Pat about that. Somebody should take that off my hands.
right.
That's for sure. Well, thanks, Sterling. I really appreciate you coming
man.
on the show and telling us stuff.
No,
It's
I
good.
mean, thanks for having me, man. You know, I mean, there's always stuff to tell, right? I mean, I always have
Always.
some sort of shenanigans stories.
Yeah.
I mean, I just dealt with the cops a little while ago and their incessant ninniness of not knowing the cannabis laws.
Landlord was just harassed in a marketplace where he had small amounts of cannabis available for people as a harm reduction option, and they took it away from him.
Man, I was giving it away for free, and they told me, well, you can't do that. I'm like, but the law says I can't. well, what law is that? No, that's distribution. I'm like, but the law says that any Canadian citizen can gift up to 30 grams of cannabis to any other legal age Canadian citizen in their respective provinces. They're like, no, that can't be right. I'm like, well, I mean, you have your phones. Maybe you guys should like look that shit up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's real simple. Like, it's right there in the federal Cannabis Act. Oh, but Saskatchewan has different laws. Oh, sorry, are you telling me that Saskatchewan laws trump the federal laws?
Yeah, they might.
Well,
They might. I don't know. They make their own little bylaws and laws. Little towns make fucking bylaws against cannabis that aren't in line with the province or the feds.
They're never
and
really
they get
in
away
line,
with
are
it.
they?
They all get away with this stuff for the most part.
High fives.
High fives. We'll see you
Love
soon.
you.
We'll see you Saturday, if not before.
I sure hope so. Well, yeah, I'm coming back to visit if you're around.
I'm usually around.
Great.
He's going to come there.
Very good. So this brings us to the final portion of the show, which is all about the CSP. And as always, apologies to those who've heard this now way too many times, but we're still waiting for resolution on getting what we're looking for in the way of licenses to have low barrier access to cannabis. And we've been trying to do that for about 6 years now, or at least we've been doing this program for about 6 years. And the program was designed to make it as easy as possible to get high-dose edibles into the hands of the people that could use them to get through withdrawal and mitigate the use of those other substances. And so we started doing that about 6 years ago. About 6 years ago, I conceived of the idea. I took it to Vandu first, and it became a Vandu project. Unanimous support from their board, and the ability to use their space for the next few years to be able to administer the program. Went prior to starting to City Council and asked for their support, did not get it. Went to the VPD, explained it all to them, and I got tacit support, but nothing tangible really, and they said that, and I said I understood that. But still, I went through all the necessary steps to try to make this as above board as possible. Glenn, if you could hand me a pamphlet there. So, after 2 months of lobbying the city government and getting donations, it became time to start handing these things out. I couldn't sit on these donations, people's lives were at stake. And so we started putting together these care packs, and for once a week, every Saturday, we went there and handed out a couple hundred care packs to the people that would line up and wait for them. Half a dozen high-dose edibles, a couple of joints. Very successful. So many people were so thankful and expressing to us the help that they were getting from that. Over a course of time, we got people telling us that they were now not using the other drugs at all, and that telling us about their successes. We had Dr. M.J. Malloy send researchers down, and they did investigations on the people that we were helping and what we were doing there, and determined that we were definitely positively contributing to these people's lives, that we were helping people to get off of these hard drugs, that it could be assisting people in withdrawal. Excuse me. And so, armed with that, we got City Council to pass a motion that they would support what we were doing. It was 2.5 years after we started it, but still, we got a unanimous decision by City Council to support what we were doing. And to, in a meeting with the city, we had an agreement that we'd find a storefront, we'd move into that, we would start providing our services to people from a storefront rather than from a lineup on the sidewalk. But upon doing that, it turns out that they couldn't give us that license until we got our application approved by the federal government, and so we applied there. And then, well, we didn't get an answer back in time to not be evicted from the store. We bought an RV. We've been operating out of the RV ever since. We're 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we have hundreds and hundreds of people that we're helping here. There's over 250 people registered as members of the Cannabis Substitution Program. They get no-cost cannabis, 420 milligrams every 4 days. And then we have a lot of other cannabis products available to people here at low cost as best we can, and high-quality products, because people need to have high-quality products. If you're trying to get off of opioids, you're not going to be wanting to have bunk weed or bunk anything. And so we have really good suppliers, really good producers of cannabis that have been helping us for a long time and have really good products. And we're able to get it to people at prices that make a lot more sense than what the government stores are doing. But we've been stuck in this RV doing our program from there for over 2 years now, and we're continuing to wait for the federal government to give us that piece of paper with a signature. In the meantime, we were raided by the VPD. We've been brought before the courts. Today, finally, after 7 previous appearances, we had what's called a pre-conference trial. There was some things that were determined there, but I didn't get to witness it, and that's a travesty of justice, in my opinion, that I don't get to see what was said about me on both sides' accounts. I've been told that the Crown sees me as opportunistic, that I'm just a gangster that's trying to take advantage of a bad situation to profit. That I should have known that I wasn't allowed to do this, and the fact that I applied for a license 2.5 years, or actually 3.5 years into the program, means that I knew that I wasn't supposed to be doing it, or why would I have had to apply for a license? Well, there was no licenses to apply for when I started. That's all just nonsense. And apparently the judge saw through that today as well. They're willing to toss the charges with George and Andrew if I plead guilty, but I can't in all good conscience plead guilty to having done things that I believe were exactly what I should have been doing for the right reasons, and that the law is unconstitutional. And that seems to be borne out in these recent court rulings, and I'm sure will be more in the future. So at this point, our lawyer is going to put together with my assistance a resolution disclosure document that will tell our side of the story, and the Crown can put together one as well, and we'll see which of those facts we all agree to. And if we all agree to enough of those facts, then there won't be a trial or a need for cops to get up and talk about the expensive surveillance equipment that taxpayers paid for, that they used to see if we were actually doing what we had said we were doing all along. That we can just have the judge determine the merits of the case based on those disclosures, and so we'll see. But that's where we're at right now. We'll let you know, of course, next week. In the meantime, we're here on the downtown east side, inside what used to be our store. And, we've got these pamphlets made up a long time ago. We got jackets for everybody a long time ago. We got banners, lots of things. And we have been as mainstream, upboard, and upfront as you could possibly be. We have tried our best to not hide anything, to be front and center, out front, so people and the governments can see what we're doing. But the truth is, the government never comes to see what we're doing. They've never sent anybody here to talk to us or to witness what happens here. And, that's shame on them. Because for them to be wasting all those tax dollars on trying to prosecute us and not understanding, they must understand that it's at least a gray area. They must understand that it's something that they should be looking into. Am I or am I not some sort of a charlatan, opportunist that's just trying to take advantage of a situation of people dying? Or are we really a group of good people that are working hard every day, taking risks to ourselves, putting ourselves in jeopardy emotionally, especially with what we have to deal with here, to try to help out a situation that we cannot turn our backs on because of all the time we put in already and what that would mean to the people that we've been helping? So you would think that the government should spend a little bit of time getting to know what's going on here, maybe talk to me about it, ask me some questions, I'll tell them the whole story, maybe they'll understand. But without talking to me, with making up their own minds, which just putting cameras up and taking pictures of people buying weed and all the rest of that, and they think they can build a case that I was selling without a license, well, they probably can. But I admit to that. We're selling cannabis because it's the right thing to do. We're selling it at prices that make sense for people. We're selling it at prices that allow us to continue what we're doing here, but nobody gets to get rich. So if they did any type of investigation, they'd figure all that stuff out for themselves. I hope they do. If not, we'll just have to prove that ourselves, and I guess that's what the next step is for us, is to put all that down in some sort of a document and see if the prosecutor agrees with that or not. So anyway, let's go see what's going on outside. The weekly weather report from downtown east side is, well, it's kind of a wet day.
Cold and wet.
Cold and wet, yeah. And, it's not too bad, rain-wise, but it is raining. Time for the hood for sure.
Keep the heat in.
Yeah, it's not winter, but it is winter,
Yeah.
Winter kicked in, you feel it. You know when it's here. You wake up that morning and things are different, lots different. So it's been that way for quite a while now. We know what we're in. And we'll get more snow as we go forward, and we're going to get a little bit more of a harsh winter by the looks of it than normal here.
Yeah.
But so be it. I guess we deserve it after all this time, because we're always the place in Canada that doesn't have such a harsh winter. When you look at the big map and see that everything's white except for this little area right down there on the coast. So, anyway, this is our new RV. We had to get because of the fire bombing.
Yep.
Which in some ways does tell us some things. But actually, what we have uncovered is that there may well have been someone in the neighborhood that was offended by us, by comments that were made by accident. It's hard down here, but we've been told that that's what it was, but of course that's not proper evidence for us to know. But we haven't got anything else that makes sense yet. There's been no one to come and say that that was a warning and we should have listened to the warning or anything like that. There's been no other further attempts, and so that's about all I know. But in the meantime, we did have our RV firebombed. We now have replaced it with this one that looks very much like it, but it's a Ford instead of a Chevy. And we just don't leave it here overnight. We take it away every night as soon as we're done and bring it back again in the morning. When I parked it one night up a block away at the police station, I thought that was safe overnight. We had somebody break in through the back, which wasn't caught on camera anyway, but the police aren't about to even look at those the films to see about it, because there wasn't a whole bunch of things stolen or damage done. There was really nothing stolen. There was nothing to steal. And so I drive it right out of the neighborhood and bring it back in the morning every time. It's not a great way, to be able to operate here. It's better than the tent for sure, but it's nowhere near what we should have, which is the dignity of a storefront that we could go into and people could come in and find themselves in a safe space, and we wouldn't have any of these problems that we've been having over the last couple of years here with the weather and the other things that have happened to us. So, Health Canada, where's that piece of paper with a signature? If you're not going to give it to us, please explain why, and please tell the whole world why. Please tell the media why, because everybody's going to want to know why you think we shouldn't do what has been extremely successful in rescuing hundreds of people over the last several years. I'd like to know what your logic would be on that. Anyway.
See us at the CSP today.
This is the CSP door. Yeah, this RV is from Saskatoon originally. Or at least at one point.
Yeah.
Probably born there.
I told you, you have a Saskatchewan limo right here. That's perfect.
That is. That's what you meant by that.
Yeah, that's what I meant. This is a Saskatchewan limo.
Great. So, this is the CSP door. I'm not going to knock and go through all of that.
All right.
But this is where people come to get their 420 milligrams every 4 days for members. They have to give their number, and then we check them on a list to see when they were here last, and then they can choose what they want from the different things that we have. We have many things. Big thanks to the Candy Bar. Big thanks to Green Wilderness. Big thanks to Gorilla Ganja. Big thanks to so many people. So many people. And thank you all for helping. I really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and see what's going on. Mary. Can't forget Mary.
Oh, can't forget Mary. She was on here today.
I hope Mary's feeling better now.
I hope so too.
Hey, George. You just barged in here.
Yeah, I see that.
Hello. That's nice to sit down.
There we go. Someone sit down.
So,
hey, there we go.
For my own lighting.
I could have turned the light on for you.
Also, a big thanks to John Murray, I gotta say, that he's been doing a really good job for a long time here with us. He was providing hot food for a while back at Vandu on the sidewalk days. For the time that we've been here, for 2.5 years, he's been providing muffins and cookies. And those are extremely important because people that aren't part of the program, and we can't add people to a program that we're already kind of maxed out with, but we do have a whole bunch of muffins and cookies that the CSP is able to procure through John, and we make sure that nobody gets turned away. Everybody gets a 100 milligram muffin or a 50 milligram cookie, whatever they need if they need it. There's free joints going out of here all day long to people that can't afford it, that just need a joint to help them in their life, and and that is so helpful for a lot of people. When you can get a free joint from somebody, that can just make your whole day. And so we've been doing that day after day here with a lot of people and having great success with all of that. So thanks to all the people that contribute to this and to make it happen. Thanks for Sterling for coming on the show, for Len for producing the show and making it all work as well, and for Cannabis Culture for giving me this platform to be able to get this story told, for Pot TV, for all the bakers and donators and volunteers over the years here with Cannabis Culture. I can't thank all of you enough. Thanks everybody who's watching the show. There's things that can be done. We still need to have the prosecutor and the Crown, educated about the CSP. I mean, for those of you who have been following our progress for the last several years, I think you can speak for us and tell people that, you think we're good people helping out, and maybe they can get the message. I don't know what it takes. They're not asking anybody, so maybe we need to step up and just inform them. So if you could write a letter, make a phone call, send an email, any of those things to the federal Crown, to the local media, to local politicians, to anybody that you can think of that might help, or any other way that you can think of that might help get what we need in this world, which is easy access to cannabinoids in all of its different forms through a low barrier community cannabis store. That's what we need to solve a lot of our issues in society. Poor people, sick people, people addicted to opioids, they just need easy access to good cannabinoids, and we can solve a lot of those issues. And I know the government doesn't want to admit that, because for 100 years they've been persecuting people and over-regulating and prohibiting and all the rest of it. And they're certainly liable for trying to have to explain themselves for why the Canadian government spent 100 years restricting access to a plant that actually helps people in so many ways and has never really harmed anybody, like alcohol and the other things that are available have. So we'll see how that all shakes out, but do your part. A good feeling to feel like you did something. It might start a series of events that can change your life and change the world. You never know, one more person might be all it takes. Critical mass, we're close. We just need to get that one straw that breaks the camel's back, and maybe we can get cannabis legalization in a way that suits everybody, and then from there maybe build on some other rights and freedoms and things that we need to have in this world. So thanks again. Do whatever you can to make the world a better place. Be kind to each other, be kind to yourself, but most important, as always, have as much fun as you can. Until I see you next week.